Up next, we have Matthew from Solid Bash, who's going to be talking about embracing change and innovation in game development, a new era of flexibility and creativity.
How's everybody feeling today after last night, the extreme ping pong? Everybody is good? Had some good fun? Nobody hung over? Sore heads. Yeah, little sore heads. But yeah, so we'll just start quickly. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you the secret recipe. There's all sorts of secret recipes for everything. I'm just going to talk about things that I've learned over the years that I've been in the industry and how that's helping us now in development, especially in light of the way that the industry has been the last little while. I'm Matthew Zoern. As it was announced, I'm the head of Solid Bash, which is a Room 8 group studio. We focus on AA mid-core games, and with a focus on mobile for live ops, full cycle development, and some porting. So yeah, myself, I've been in the industry for 2 decades. I'm a lot older than I look, is what I'm told. So I started through non-traditional ways into the gaming space. I've come through design, marketing, advertising. I worked in the music industry for a while, so I've seen a lot of different things and the way that industries have evolved over time. And I use all of that knowledge to try to find and do different things. I've worked in VR, I've worked with mobile, I've worked in publishing, I've worked on pretty much every different type of technology at this point, with the exception of the Apple Vision Pro, which hopefully that will come out very soon, and we'll be doing some work on that. But I've always tried to do something that was different, because by nature I'm just a very, I don't want to say, I'm impatient. I get bored with things, so I want to try new things. I want to try to get out there and just see what we can do. So just a quick little overview. How did we get here? I'm not going to sit here and focus on why we're in this state, but it is, I think, relevant to understand how we got here, where we are, and some of the things that, in my opinion, need to change, or at least things that we can help do to help us have successful titles in the market. 2020, we were due for a bit of a recession in the gaming industry. And I'm not sure how many people remember this, but it was talked about, things were starting to downturn. And then COVID came along, everybody got inside, and this was something that was obviously ran for a very long time. People had a lot of extra time on their hands, so they started playing games. A lot of different companies used this opportunity to build up their workforce, and because there was a lot of money in the market. And along with that, we have a bit of the crypto bubble starting to begin. So as this continues through into 2021, we've seen a lot of at this point, the largest revenue for the gaming industry to date was in 2021. And a lot of that was due to these conditions. So then we come into 2022. 2022, we start to see COVID restrictions lift, people start to get out a little bit more, and then along comes a little bit of the crypto crash, which then has a cascading effect. Then you have tools from AI like Midjourney coming, not coming out, but starting to get a lot more popularity. These are all different things that threaten the industry. And then the gaming market closes a little bit less than the year before. Into 2023, more of this, we start to see games getting cut back because it takes a little bit of time for these things to carry over and start to have an effect and an impact on the industry. And we've seen it. Investment starts to dry up, and then we get into a point where we just start seeing mass layoffs that are even continuing through this week. Are we going to recover from this? In my opinion, we are absolutely going to recover from this. So one of the things that I think was very interesting is a buddy of mine reached out to me the other day and was saying, dude, the industry is crumbling. Like, what's going on? And I think I disagree with that. Well, I don't think, I do disagree with that. I think it's changing. It's, you see it in some of the talks that we've had here earlier today. The way that we approach development, I think, is very important for us to understand how we source the games that we make and entertain our market. Because at the end of the day, it's the market that makes the game successful. And that makes us money that allows us to do our craft more and more. So how can we be more innovative? In my opinion, I think we need to look at development approaches. And those development approaches, my first suggestion is we need to restructure our production pipelines. I've already seen a lot of talks where everybody's like, you gotta get out there, you gotta do your prototype, you gotta do your first playable, you gotta do your alpha, you gotta do your beta, you gotta do all this stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that. I agree that we do have to have structure. I agree that some of these things do need to happen. But what I don't agree with is that we have to take an old arcane way of production and apply that to all game development. First playable might work if you're a AAA studio and you've got a team of 150 people. It does not work if you're a team of 10 people or 20 people or even a mid-core game. These are old ways of doing things, and we need to look at how the market is changing. So with that, we have to look at how those all happened. We look at the, excuse me, I'm drying out. We have to look at the way that we are going to apply those to development now. We take those development strategies, we put those in front of users right away. We get the feedback from the users. We don't spend a whole chunk of time and investment into these games before we know if they're going to be successful. And I remember when I started at EA many years ago, one of the things that they sat us down and they said, what is it that makes us successful? And everyone's like, oh, you've got great games, or you've got this, or you've got that. But the reality is they came back and said, it's money. It's money that drives this industry. It's not greedy money, but it is money that drives the industry. And we need to be able to approach the market in the way that the users are going to pay for these different products. You need to understand what your users want early. This is something that I'm calling direct-to-market prototyping. We've seen this on a lot of different ways. We've seen this with early access on Steam. We've seen this in early alphas, getting out there. But what I'm suggesting is direct-to-market prototyping is a way, and I can actually even call out Supercell on this, that they've done this already. And they are probably the pioneers of this. They develop a game. They don't develop the whole game. They've developed a portion of a game. You get it out there with the core loop. You understand what it is that your development, what your audience wants. And you use that information to build your game out. Find out what it is. If it's the core experience is collection and character generation, then focus your production and everything on that first. Don't spend time working on something that's going to be a feature down the road for your vertical slice, because the vertical slice says you need to have every single part of your game accessible so that you can test how it is. That to me doesn't make sense, because you're changing your foundation before you even know what your house is going to look like. You have a good idea, but you need to take these in with a bit of a grain of salt. So you need to validate your ideas through your market. You need to test those assumptions in the market. See how people respond. Do they like my artwork? Do they like the battle mechanic of my game? Before you add all of this meta feature on there. And then this will help you with the monetization of your game to ultimately help your game be more of a success. But you need to be able to reduce those financial risks. You need to not get stuck in this sunk cost fallacy, which is, I've invested so much and my idea is great. You have to look at the environment and understand if this is something that that is kind of a lost cause, or looked great on paper but didn't really necessarily give an effective result once you actually got it into the market. Don't focus on costly development strategies. I see this over and over again. I've seen this pretty much start on every production that I've ever worked on throughout my career. Is you will get people going, well, we need to create a system that will capacitate for 1 billion users concurrent. That you don't even know what your current rates are going to be for your users. You don't know what that's going to be. You don't know how your game is going to change. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying, don't spend time and effort to do your development and do it well. What I'm saying is, don't waste the time on the things that don't make sense for your production that are just going to ultimately waste your time and your money before you even get get the product in the hands of your users. So consider that the budgets are kind of your main source. It's your source of revenue. Focus on creative strategies. Look at things that are out there in other products. Don't repeat them. Find new ways of bringing those forward. Test them with your market directly, instantly. And as I said, deprioritize long-term considerations by not wasting your time. And the most important, in my opinion, and this is something that's changing within the industry, is stop hiring people that are specialists at one given thing. We are not in a point in the industry where we have somebody that can be a tree expert. That might have been the case 15, 20 years ago, but that's not the case now. The tools that we have at our disposal are much more powerful. The systems that we have with AI that are coming in are much more powerful. It's going to cost you a lot of money to have these specialists that are only useful for 25% of your project or 50% of your project. You want to make your team as accessible, as functional as possible, so that when you're running through production, you actually have all of these people that you can keep busy and not having to keep adding more and more to the team. If you have something where you need a specialist to bring into the mix, you can hire externally. You can bring from another team if you're part of a company that has a lot of different developers. You bring them in for the things that you need, and then you get them out of the project. And these are definitely things that I see changing. I'm looking at artists who understand how to sculpt, how to unwrap, how to rig, so that we basically don't have to have 3 different people, and then you keep this large overhead, which is ineffective. Selfish plug here. We've been applying a lot of these different techniques on a game that we have in production. It's very early right now. We're starting to see some success with it. We're also has led to a lot of changes. So going back to the original point that I was talking about, where we had these idea of what we thought would look good on paper, we put out, and then when we started looking at it, some of these things didn't really mesh as well. So we started changing some of this game so that we could engage with our audience a little bit better. And it's starting to show a lot of promise. And we continue to use these kind of iterative approaches so that we can start to really hone in on the success rates of our products. So ultimately, this organic approach, you want to get to a point where you can get answers as quick as possible, get it out into the market, to ultimately save you time that ultimately saves you money. And I want to finish really quickly with a point, which is there's always this saying that is that people say, jack of all trades, master of none. But the reality of that is that there's actually more to that no one actually talks about. It's jack of all trades, master of none is always better than a master of one. You need to get people together. You need to get people with lots of different skills to make these games successful. And that should hopefully, if you've listened to your market and you've really done a lot of hard thinking, should get you to a point where you are actually getting successes in the market. And you're not just hitting these one-hit wonders. So I'm not going to go through the takeaways, but I did want to leave some time for questions because there's a lot actually with that direct-to-market prototyping that I want to talk specifically about, but I want to hear from you guys about some of the challenges that you're having in game development and maybe even some of your solutions.
Yeah, so does anyone have any questions? Apparently everyone seems...
Does everybody agree? Does everybody disagree? No?
So, do you have just any other final thoughts that you can share? Predictions for 2024 and in general for the games industry or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, predictions. I could sit here and say that the industry is going to recover, and there is definitely things that are showing that it's going to recover. But again, I think that's kind of the core of the message that I'm at least trying to get out, which is it is changing. It's not going to be the same as what we've seen before. We need to be able to be a bit more flexible. We need to find creative ways to approach these changing times. And I've seen it in the music industry in the early 2000s with the Napster, with Apple Music and that sort of thing. They had to change the way that they approached things because that's how the industry used to work, and then with all these new technologies, it really did start to change. It's happening again with the movie industry. Netflix, Apple TV, all of these companies are having to go through these changes and be flexible and find new ways to get to their audience and do it in a much more cost-effective way. And now we're seeing it in the gaming industry. And the gaming industry isn't going to go away. The music industry isn't going to go away. I would argue to say that the music and movie industry are even stronger now for it, and that we're going to see a lot of these things in the coming years that is going to strengthen the gaming industry. At least that's what I hope. But, you know, I can't see the future.
It would be so much easier if we could.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so there's still 2 minutes or whatever like that. If anyone does have any questions, if anyone's thought of any, one over here, please.
I can hear you.
Getting a new mic.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the talk. When I talk about with my team about early releases and early marketing, it was also mentioned in the previous talk, the fear of copycats, your precious idea being stolen, so to say. Do you have any advice or any tips around that?
So this is actually, it's a very good question, because we are very paranoid about our ideas being stolen, especially in the gaming industry. In my experience, you will actually hurt yourself more by not finding out what the public wants to do in order to keep your idea quiet. You should actually be talking about your idea, but you have to know that your idea is strong. Don't give everything away, but you do need to get it out there. And by not talking about it and not getting it in front of people, you're not actually finding out what they want. And you're not actually getting that information to have a successful product. It might be the best idea that you've ever had, but if it doesn't resonate with your public and you don't get it out there in front of people, you'll never know. And I've seen a lot of people that have great ideas that will not talk about it or will not do anything, and it literally just dries up on the vine because they don't have the resources and they can't get people engaged because they don't want to talk about it. So talk about it. Don't give everything away, but talk about it. Get people excited. You'll actually learn from other people too what they like about it. There aren't people out there that are just like, oh, I want to find your idea and then I'm just going to steal that and I'm going to put it out quicker. I mean, yes, there's definitely people that do copycats, but those are usually after something's been successful. VCs don't give you money until you've actually invested in doing some of the development and they can actually see what this is all about. So why would somebody that you're talking to, just immediately go and kind of take that and run with it? So that would be what I would have to say about that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Matthew. A round of applause, please.
Thank you.